Last night, I was looking to start a new anime and I could not find anything until I stumbled upon Loner Life in Another World. This anime looked familiar because I remembered seeing it on the fall 2024 anime listings. Despite the fact that it was an isekai, I decided to give it a chance. I'm pretty neutral on the isekai genre. I watched some pretty horrible animes like Farming Life in Another World, but I've also seen some isekais that were obviously cash grabs that I somewhat enjoyed, such as I Got a Cheat Skill in Another World and Became Unrivaled in the Real World, 2. Yes, that is the actual title. That being said, I watched all 9 episodes of Loner Life in Another World, and I am fairly confident that this is the worst anime of fall 2024, maybe even in contention for the worst anime of all time. Let me explain why. So the anime starts off with our main character, who I'm not even going to call by name. I'm instead going to call protagonist because he is the most boring, basic, generic isekai protagonist of all time. So protagonist is in class when all of a sudden a portal to another world opens up. Why? I don't know, but the main character decides he does not want to go to another world because that's too much of a hassle. He's such an edgy loner, he doesn't want to be isekai'd. So he tries to climb into the ceiling, but the portal gets to him anyway. But when the portal gets to him, because he's in the ceiling of his classroom, he is in a white void with God, which kind of makes sense. At this point in the show, I was like, wait, is this writing amazing? Because it would make sense, if you were to get teleported higher up, you would be, in the sky with God, something like that. The god of this world then explains to protagonist that all of the OP abilities were taken by his classmates, leaving him with only garbage selections. I really don't understand how all of the good abilities were taken in the time in which he climbed into the ceiling. It seems like all of his classmates were teleported into the world maybe 30 seconds faster than him, but let's give the show the benefit of the doubt and just say time moves faster in this world, I guess. Protagonist starts complaining because there's only bad abilities left, and the god of the world just says, you know what, take all the abilities and sends him packing. So protagonist is alone in this world with all of the bad abilities and he doesn't know what he's going to do, and then he decides, you know what, I'm a loner, I'm gonna be alone. So protagonist starts his loner life in the isekai world, and let me just say, I think it's pretty cool that this show acknowledges the fact that it's an isekai. The characters are all aware what an isekai is. However, the world that they were isekai'd into is so boring. If you want to see an isekai done correctly, look at Re:Zero. It's a completely fresh take on the franchise. This world, however, dungeons, goblins, bunnies, killer bunnies, magic. It's so lame. How many times have we seen it at this point? It is literally the same world in the same series of events on episode 1 through 5 in every single cash grab isekai. Character gets spawned into the world, he's OP for no reason, he beats up on goblins, he finds shelter, he eats mushrooms. Next episode. Here is where my real problem with this anime starts. In episode 2, the main character is no longer alone. He groups up with some woman. The anime fully acknowledges that making the main character group up with other people ruins the one thing that makes this a special isekai. The only thing that differentiates this show from other isekais is the fact that the main character is a loner. So what does he do? He continues to group up with people throughout the show, but he is constantly saying, oh, I'm such a loner. I wish I was alone right now. It's like they're fully aware that this show is made for people who have no friends. They cling on so hard to the fact that this guy is a loner despite the fact that he's simply not. It would be like if in Tokyo Ghoul, Kaneki moves to America and then he constantly says, I belong in Tokyo. I'm a Tokyo Ghoul. Here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. The main character gets bossed around and gets forced to go to a town by a bunch of women. Where are all the guys, you might ask? Well, there's only a few left, seeing how one of the villains in the show killed most of the guys. Why? Because the main character needs to be surrounded by girls. It's an isekai. So he's pretty much forced by the woman to stay in this town. Now I want you to keep 3 things in mind. First of all, this guy is easily the most powerful person in the entire verse at this point, not counting monsters. Even though he has the weakest abilities, he's the main character, so he learned how to combine these abilities to become the strongest in the verse. 2, this guy can fly. No one else in the show at this point can fly except for him. 3, this guy has a cloak that he can put on to go completely invisible. So what does he do to get away from the woman who are forcing him to stay in this town? Keep in mind, he apparently wants nothing more than to be alone. I'm gonna let you take a guess on what he does. Does he option A, use the fact that he is pretty much a god in this world to just ignore the request of the woman around him and leave? Or option B, does he leave his hotel room with the invisibility cloak, take his invisibility cloak off before he even gets out of the town that the women want him to stay in, and then immediately get caught by some of the women that want him to stay there because he is still in the town and no longer invisible? If you guessed option B, you would be correct. Now I know what you're thinking, there's no way the main character is actually this stupid. Maybe he doesn't truly want to be alone. Maybe deep down he's a good guy and he just wants to protect the woman in this world. Except for the fact that his second attempt at escaping, he almost got away. This time he kept the invisibility cloak on until he got out of the town. Granted, he did take it off 100 steps after leaving the town for some reason. I guess he didn't learn his lesson from the first escape attempt. But then he saw some thugs harassing a woman, a defenseless woman, and he decided to ignore her. He was going to let this woman die so that he could go be alone until one of the thugs conveniently attacked him, even though he just wanted to leave. The writer tried so hard to make this guy seem like he wanted to be alone just so that they could make him not be alone to keep the plot moving. This entire anime is about a character who is way too overpowered for no reason, getting bossed around by people who couldn't even touch him if they wanted to. He has absolutely no emotions, he has no empathy, and still he ends up in situations time and time again where the plot can continue to churn. It is about a loner in another world who is not a loner. Instead, he is just getting moved around by women. So what is this? This is just an isekai. There is nothing special about this show. It is just an average isekai. And if you still don't believe this is a bad anime, I have even more talking points here. For example, the main love interest of this story is the class president. How do I know she is the main love interest? Because she is the only woman in this show that gets her own 40 seconds of backstory. She is the childhood friend of the protagonist. That is about it. That is all the backstory she gets. Her personality traits are pretty much what you could imagine. No, seriously, imagine a female love interest character in an anime. Good job. You just imagine the character absolutely perfectly. No personality, nothing interesting to them. That's about it. But what really shocked me about this character, what really just amazed me when it came to the writing of this show, is the fact that this character is referred to by her childhood friend as class president. She does not have a name. They did not give a name to the main love interest in this show. Don't worry, I can definitely keep going. The delinquents from the class who got transferred into this world are one of the strongest people in this entire universe. The reason for this is because everyone from the class who got put into this world has absolutely ridiculous cheat skills. As I said earlier, the main character is the strongest in the entire verse, and he doesn't even have any astonishing skills. He has some of the worst skills in the show. So instead of the delinquents saying, you know what, we are top 40 strongest people in this entire world, let's go start our lives over again, let's maybe find wives. What do they decide to do with their powers? Let's just say they are trying to use them to do creepy things to the woman of the classroom. Like, why? They could have pretty much any wife in this world that they want just by using their powers to get rich, maybe by going in the dungeons, doing things of that nature. But no, they decided to be villains because why not? They had to be villains. Or the other villain in this show who wants to steal the cheat skills of all his other classmates by killing them. Why? You're already top 30 strongest people in the entire world and you still need more power? I wasted 3 hours watching this anime, so I had to talk about it. Please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and make sure to subscribe if you are new, as I'm trying to become an anime YouTuber. Click either of the videos on your screen now if you want, and I will see you later.